Hello, I'm Dom.
And I'm Guy.
We're the Board Goblins.
And this is Star Trek Ascendancy.
Nice.
Can you do that?
Before we go any further, if you like what we do, please don't forget to like and subscribe.
That way you get alerted to new videos when they come out, which should be weekly with your support.
Absolutely. Right, Star Trek Ascendancy.
Yes. How does it work? Overview.
Well, first of all,
what is it? Yes.
This is a, is it a 4-player game?
Can be a 4-player game. Initially out the box, it's only a 3-player game where you get to play the Klingons, the Romulans, or the Federation. But there are numerous expansions which expanded up, I believe, and I stand to be corrected, to 7.
Really?
Yeah, 7 players. And there is an option for solo play too if you get the Borg expansion.
Which is great.
Changes things completely, because then you've technically got 8 players. So there's a huge expansion option for this game. So yeah, 2 to 8 or 9, somewhere there.
Yes, and it is a resource management game.
Yep, absolutely.
And sort of midway, I would say.
Yeah, there's not a huge amount of complexity to how the game actually functions, really. There are some nuances, and when you're learning the game, the rulebook is awful. It really is bad. There's lots of interpretation when you go onto the web to try and find out how does this rule work. There's lots of posts going, well, we play it like this, we play it like that, and so homebrew will be part and parcel of this experience.
Yeah, we had a few times we played the game and we were like, oh, so actually it's this way, and you go, oh. But yeah.
But when you read the rules, it can be confusing. So sometimes you also have to refer to the in-card game rules and kind of extrapolate from that. So that would be the... I know we're not doing that. This not at that part yet in the video, but...
Hold that thought. But how do you actually play Star Trek Ascendancy? Well, in Star Trek Ascendancy, each player's goal is to reach 5 Ascendancy. These are the Ascendancy tokens. First to 5 wins. Pretty simple, right? You all start on your home planet here, right? On your home planet, you have 3 nodes. You have a production node, which is red, a research node, which is blue, and a culture node, which is yellow. These give you the resources at the end of every round. So for instance, with a production node, if you have 1 there, you get a production node, you get a blue research token there, and you get a culture 1 here because you have a culture node there. What these allow you to do are certain things. So with research, you can spend these to start researching certain things, improving your technology, which is pretty handy later on in the game. You can increase your shields, you can increase your weapons. That's what you can do with your research. With production, it's essentially the backbone of everything you do. Production allows you to build ships, which, as you can imagine, are pretty essential for exploring space. And then also, you can get your culture tokens here. Now, when you get a culture token, if you get 5 of them, as you can see, you get this lovely shape here, which, if you remember, looks pretty similar to this Ascendancy token. Get 5 and you get an Ascendancy token. So, just 4 more of those and you win the game. As you can see, the more planets you have, the more nodes you have, the quicker you can get to getting Ascendancy, building more ships, etc, etc. How you go exploring is pretty cool. You sort of roll a die and it tells you how far you can go, essentially. So that connects to there, and suddenly your ship can go exploring all the other places out there in the universe. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, you'll get to meet other species and fall into all sorts of traps, and yeah, I mean, it is a crazy, crazy world out there, but it's all waiting for you to explore. And
you can stop talking.
Cool.
Finish showing cards now.
Great.
Okay. Done?
I'm done, apparently.
Good. So there are more things to this game, obviously. We're not going to take you through the whole thing. That's not what this channel is all about. There are enhancements and things you can do to your shields and your weapons, and combat is much more sophisticated than that, and you can form fleets and all kinds of cool and wonderful things, which I think is testimony to one of the things that I like about this game.
Tell me, what do you like about this game?
Okay, well, what I like about this game, actually, you know what? What I love about this game is I'm a little bit of a Star Trek fanatic. Yeah. Little bit of a fanatic. So whenever there's a Star Trek game that comes out, I'm like, oh, I want to get that. It doesn't matter if it's board game or tabletop war game or whatever. I really like the...
You do, and you do get them. Yeah.
And what I always look for is, does it make me feel like I'm playing Star Trek? And I have to say, I think that it does. It really does.
Yeah.
There's exploration. There's encountering weird and wonderful species and creatures and anomalies and all that kind of stuff. There's scientific research going on. There's espionage. There's backstabbing. If you're playing with the right players, there is inter-player diplomacy that's going on. If you need to travel through someone's space and they say no, it's war. If they say yes, you can just sail through. So there's all of that. So it really does, to me, feel like a really good Star Trek game.
Yeah, and you know what? I have to say that for me, one of my worries when it comes to games that are based on series or, sort of things like that, is the worry that people will go, oh, you don't know this race, you don't know how it works, you don't know Star Trek the world, then you're not going to know how to play. In this, that isn't the case. It really is just like, if you love resource management, and I do, I mean, if there was Excel the game, I would absolutely be there. But basically, you don't have to worry about knowing the world and the lore. You can just get straight into it, and I really, really love that about this game, I have to say.
Although the game is not actually as boring as Excel, but yes, I just have to make that
Beg to differ that
clear.
Excel is boring, but that's another video, another time. I also like, I have to say, the planets. What I really like is when you go exploring, you don't know what's out there. And so you kind of reveal it as you go along, which really gives you that moment of like, oh, what's it going to be? Is it going to be like the Outgolis cluster? Is there like tons of production to get? Or is it just going to be a phenomenon where all my ships are going to blow up? It really gives you that kind of space, exploration vibe where you're like, anything's out there, anything's possible, good or bad. I have to say I really like that.
I do. Another thing that I quite like is that the models are actually pretty cool. They're really tiny little models. I'm going to try and get that in shot for you. Really tiny, but they are really, really, really cool, really indicative. Each race kind of gets their own Vorcha class cruiser there for the Klingons. Oh, there we go. Sorry, new camera setup. So, I do like the components. They're very robust. I love this whole slider dial system that you have to measure your strength of your weapons and things. So, component-wise, I think it's brilliant.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Lots going on there. What don't you like about it?
To be honest, there's not a lot I don't like, but I think sometimes I feel like it may take you a couple of games to understand how certain species work. Like the Cardassians, for instance, where you need to have a ship in your planet to get the production. I think any nodes, is it, or just production?
Just production.
But you need to have your ship there, and that really limits how you can explore at the beginning. And it takes you a couple of games to kind of understand how they work. I think that's my only thing. It does take a little while. Maybe it's just me, though. Maybe you get it quicker, and you're a smarter cookie than me. I doubt that. But it took me a little while to kind of get that. But, if you have the patience and you like resource management games, as I said, then you kind of, you'll be into it.
Definitely from that. There are some things that will cause the game to kind of break for some players, which is unfortunate. The planets, each planet, as Dominic's pointed out, have these nodes. However, not all planets are equal. So some planets only have science nodes or culture nodes or resource nodes. Some have many and some have very, very few. Now, because you are exploring your space around your starting home planet, the randomizing of planets and space and phenomenon, etc., means that some players can end up having a whole lot of planets around them that are either spatial phenomenon, which, although it gives you science, doesn't give you anything else, or having planets that have got very low resources. And as a result, there is an immediate imbalance in terms of your production versus somebody else's production or science or culture.
Absolutely.
So that's a bit of a negative for me.
No, I agree.
If you have a bad draw, you can get scuppered. Then, further to that, is all of these exploration cards that you have. Sometimes you draw a civilization which already inhabits the planet. And for that, you then have to invade that planet or diplomacy your way through if you're a diplomatic species. And if you draw a really tough one in the early stages of the game, that's a planet that you're just never going to get to.
Yeah, that is true. But so there is something really, I have to say though, when you do reveal a planet and you go, oh my gosh, it is sensational. Everything I've been waiting for, all the production that I need, or all the research. And then you reveal that warp-capable level 2 civilization and you know that it's out of reach. It's so frustrating, but it adds that kind of great element to the game. We're like, oh my God, really? And then you have to go, well, am I going to assimilate them? You know, am I gonna take them out, or am I not? Am I gonna be good? You know, and it really kind of makes you think about how you play a game.
No, it does. It does. Yeah. The other thing that I have as a major negative for this game, it's not a game breaker, but your turn is not handled simultaneously with everybody else's turn. Your turn is handled on an individual basis. And with a game like this, which literally can sprawl over multiple tables, if you're playing with lots of players, each turn takes, I would say on average, in the early stages, maybe it takes 30 seconds because you're just exploring locally. But as the game gets bigger and more complex, those turns slow down. And so you can find yourself where you take your turn and then you sit back for 10, 15 minutes while everybody else works through their turn. So there is quite a lot of downtime where you can't do anything except if you are attacked, then you would fight back.
It's a really, really good point, to be honest. I forgot about that. And especially when you have lots of planets and at the end of every round, you're trying to figure out, okay, you've got 6 production, you've got 7. If you haven't got someone who's kind of like thinking ahead, you've got to spend like 2 minutes just waiting to get all the resource tokens. So yeah, I do agree with you there. Yeah.
You will need to allocate tasks. Someone is responsible for the planets and space lanes, someone's responsible for the resources, someone's responsible for the nodes, etc., etc.
I will just say that when I'm in charge of actually doing all the resources, I'm pretty great, aren't I? I'm always ahead. I'm like,
okay, I will give you that. Yes, you are always calculating those.
Yeah. If I had an Excel spreadsheet, limitless potential. Thank you very much. Have you know? Anyway,
if you are designing an Excel spreadsheet game,
get in touch. I want to hear from you. No. And you want to as well.
Okay, I would suck at that game.
You would.
I'd be like, I don't even know what Excel is, and we're not talking about Excel.
It'd be the second game you'd suck at.
We're talking about Star Trek Ascendancy, not Excel.
Star Trek Ascendancy, the Excel update. Right. So, is there anything else you think you'd add?
For all of its negatives, if you're a Star Trek fan, even if you're not a Star Trek fan, if you want a game that is always different because it's randomized, if you want a game where you can sometimes just kind of feel isolated for a little while, but then once you get connected with everybody else, you are now in diplomacy and you're in diplomatic talks, and you have friends who will make that an interesting experience rather than just sitting there filling in their Excel sheets, then this is a good game.
Absolutely.
Overall.
Yeah, I mean, the replayability value is insane. I love playing this game. I love coming back to it every single time. So chin to that. On the shelf or not?
Definitely on the shelf. We've got all of the expansions, so they are sometimes difficult to find. The base game is not so difficult to find. You can still get the base game, but those expansions, what I really like about the expansions, I have to say this though, is that every species that they add has a totally different playing style. Like, for example, the Ferengi are all about having trading outposts, not conquering planets.
Do you know your rules of acquisition, all of them?
I regret to say that I do not know all 284 rules of acquisition and annotated notes and additional appendices and commentaries from the FCA. So I fail.
Yeah. Well. How dare you?
Yeah. Exactly.
I will say that I will also put it on my shelf very proudly, and I recommend that you do as well. To be honest, if you love these kind of exploration games and stuff in space. So yeah.
There you go. And I believe that's it from us. So have you played Star Trek Ascendancy? If so,
do the thing.
Do the thing. Do the thing. And then write a comment in the comments down below. Let us know your experiences of Star Trek Ascendancy. What did you feel about that? So we can, share and care.
And let us know what you want us to review next as well. Very curious to see.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that's it. So I will have to say, engage. Shall I start?
Go for it.
Okay, here we go.